This is a conceptual video for standard deviation. So standard deviation, the idea of it is that we're talking about, on average, how much variation is there from each score and the mean. So this is the same example that I used for the video on the conceptual mean. And here we have candy bars that each person in group 1 has. So person 1 has 2 candy bars, person 2 has 5, person 3 has 6, person 4 has 3, and person 5 has 4. So the mean is 4 here. So we're saying that on average, people have 4 candy bars. But not everybody has 4. So we need to talk in terms of how much variation there is from that mean. And that's what the standard deviation allows us to do. So to explain this, I'm going to draw this out, and I'm going to draw this on the whiteboard just for clarity. All right, so we have candy bars, and I'm going to put 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, because our maximum number of candy bars is 6. So we had one person that had 2 candy bars. So I'm going to note that by just putting a little dot here. So we had one person with 2. We had another person with 5, another person with 6, another person with 3, and another person with 4. The idea here is that we're saying, okay, we know our mean is actually 4. So this is our mean. And I'm going to, again, use X bar, or you could use M. That's our sample mean. The idea here is that we're saying, on average, how far is each of these points from the mean? So our mean is 4. So this person that's right here, they are 0 distance from the mean. That is the mean. So there's no distance between this person and the mean. But this person is 1 candy bar higher than the mean. And then this person over here is 2 candy bars higher than the mean. This person is 1 candy bar lower than the mean. And this person that had 2 is going to be 2 candy bars lower than the mean. So the idea here is that we're looking at the average distance between each of these points and the mean. Now, the standard deviation calculation is more complicated, but that is because we have to account for the fact that we have negative distance here. So if we were to look at the deviations from the mean, we have a 2, a 3, a 4, a 5, and a 6. Deviations from the mean, I'm just going to say DEV, that would be X minus the mean. Oops, let me erase that. So X minus the mean, which in our case is 4. So our deviation for 2 would be 2 minus 4 equals -2. And then 3 minus 4 for our deviation for that point. So we're talking about this one right here. Our deviation for that point would be -1. 4 minus 4, there's no deviation. So this is just 0. And then 5 minus 4, our deviation equals 1. And 6 minus 4, our deviation equals 0. The conceptual definition is that we're taking the average of these distances. So we're saying on average, there's this much distance from the mean. However, if we do that, this is always going to equal 0 because we have negative distance here. So this -2 plus 2 cancels out. -1 plus 1 cancels out, and we end up with 0. And that will happen every time. So what we actually do in our formula for standard deviation is that we square those differences, and then we have to account for that squaring later. But the concept of it is we're talking about how much variation on average there is between each score and the mean. Now, back in this example, I can calculate my standard deviation. So I can say equals STDev, my standard deviation, and I can just calculate that standard deviation for this sample. And you can see that the standard deviation is 1.58. So what we're saying here is that on average, the variation between each person's amount of candy bars and the mean is 1.58. Now, if we looked at this second group, where we have the group 2, where everybody got the same number of candy bars, if we were to calculate this with our standard deviation, we would find that our standard deviation is 0 because there is no variation from the mean. This is all equal. And so if you have a standard deviation of 0, it means that all scores are the same, meaning that it's going to be, you're going to have the same average there. So again, this is a quick conceptual video on standard deviation, but calculating it by hand does help with understanding this process.